This year, I turned 20 years old, which is a trivial number to most. In fact, it's a common belief that life begins in your 20s. Yet here I am. And to me, my age has not felt trivial for a while. In fact, I have watched it approach with steadily creeping anxiety for the past year or two. Given the current state of the world, it's very easy to feel uncertain for the future more than really ever. At least I strongly feel that way about my own life, and I imagine millions of people my age share this feeling. Ever since I can remember, I've had a very strong and unwavering idea of where I want to see myself in the future and what kind of person I want to be. But in a sort of cruel irony, now that I am at the point in my life where I can really start working towards my career and myself, I feel completely stuck, unable to push myself to make any big moves or really begin any sort of journey. And as much as of an excuse as it sounds, I honestly don't think this is down to laziness or lack of motivation. I genuinely feel like if I commit to anything and it fails, I have failed. For a while, my thought process has been, well, as soon as I work out which path is the correct one and will guarantee success, then I will make my move. Which has led me to doing absolutely nothing, as with every month the goalpost in my head seems to move itself. The more I sank into this pit of unproductivity, the more bitter and resentful I became for all aspects of my life. Although, it wasn't always this way. When I was around 17, I had essentially nothing in my life except for a few long-term friends and a burning desire and passion for music. And due to some pretty horrific personal struggles in my life, I had missed essentially the entire of secondary school with no qualifications to show. In 2023, at what I consider to be the lowest point in my life, I gave myself an ultimatum. I either give up with my dreams entirely and accept that I'm screwed, or I find a way to change everything and steer myself back on track, but within a single week. Pretty bleak, I know, and quite unrealistic, but that's exactly what I did. That week, I gathered as much of a musical portfolio as possible, that being performances, orchestral compositions, the whole lot, and showed up at one of my local colleges and enrolled onto a music production and performance course. Mind you, I had 0 of the qualifications required, so I had no chance. But the head of faculty for some reason gave me an interview and ended up being so impressed that I was let onto a new course they were running. It wasn't up to A-level equivalent, but it was something. Anyway, months later, I got a call explaining that due to a lack of enrollment, that the course would be cancelled. And I was really crushed. Although following that, the head of faculty told me that he would give me a month-long trial on this level 3 course, which for anyone unfamiliar with UK colleges is equivalent to an A-level by the end, to see if I could keep up with the work and the other students. And that phone call changed my entire life. I would go on to get 100% marks on every single assignment I was handed, be awarded a Student of the Year award, meet friends who I value extremely highly in my life, and most importantly to me, meet my girlfriend of over 2 years. So, with all that personal nonsense out of the way, you may be wondering where it all went so wrong. Well, after completing college, you really get 2 choices. Go to university, or don't, and begin working towards your future straight away. And after I finished college, I'd been accepted into all of my choices for university, but I ended up just ignoring all the emails and sort of just left it to die. To explain myself, this was due to a few reasons. One being student loans are insane, and most people, especially within any sort of creative industry, leave university with barely any money and a whole lot of debt. To be honest, this didn't sound too pleasing to me, and quite a few people I know who were in the same boat as me felt the exact same way. But inevitably, this left me without any sort of roadmap for the first time in a while, and I really felt the pressure and responsibility hanging over me, which, tying back to my original point, has led me to struggling to work towards anything for almost a year. I feel guilty any time I indulge in anything recreational, whether that be video games, scrolling on my phone, or even just going out to meet people. And writing and playing music, something I used to value more than almost anything, has begun to feel like a chore. Comparing my situation now to my previous one, I believe I have nailed down the exact issue that leads to this mental trap. And that is that most of the time, the journey of life is the easy part. It's preparing for that journey that is difficult. Just taking the first step, no matter how fearful you are of where it will lead, will inevitably take you to a better place than if you just never took that step at all. Over the past few weeks, I have researched this phenomenon and recently became familiar with the term analysis paralysis, which describes itself as a cognitive state of overthinking or overanalyzing a situation, causing forward motion or decision-making to become paralyzed, often leading to no decision being made at all. Or in simpler terms, the fear of failure. I remember thinking to myself, this is exactly how I feel. And it was sort of relieving as I now at least had a name for my problem and could in turn maybe research ways to overcome it. Through this research, I found a really profound quote that reads, You will remain the same until the pain of remaining the same is greater than the pain of change. This made me think about the path I'm currently on, and if I continue on this path, would I look back in 20 years with content or regret? To me, the answer is obvious, but I will reflect that same question back to you. Will the future you be proud of what you've achieved and where you're headed? If not, something needs to change.